video response, kind of. The reality of experience. Yes, this guy again. Not gonna play this video, I don't think. Probably not. So probably should put the camera down. Yes, that's what I probably should do. Anyway, so just the subject of, it's always psychology. It isn't really philosophy, because philosophically you can sort of understand that it is all just silly psychology that rolls in our head. I mean, everything we do, even the good things, we're doing them for personal. We have to make the reasons personal. So we always have to taint them a little bit with some sort of pride or ego or I'm winning kind of thing, because we just changed the nature of the game. So if reality just presents you with monopoly, and you're like, well, I'm not really into this capitalist thing, then you just start thinking about the squares and just relabel them something else, like accomplishment, or personal fame, or some sort of, you just turn into something else that you are interested in. And so it's just a kind of psychological trick. And I mean, awareness of our capacity to play these games, this trick with the game of life, might be useful. So, I'm informing you that it's really not difficult at all to play the game that way, to turn stuff into something else to make the game playable. But philosophically, the argument might be that the basic underlying game is not efficient enough for that. You can't justify it, because when you're playing the game that way, what you're basically doing, even when you're playing Monopoly, you're just ignoring the price. The uncompensated widows, the the price in disease or pollution or some other thing that's created because you own the railroads or whatever you're doing. So, that's my biggest problem with the anticontivades of the world. Is there these make-do, let's turn the old sow's ear into, Gouda cheese or something, and gorge ourselves on bullshit, on the bullshit. And it's constant negating of the idea of even horror even existing. It doesn't even, we don't have to pay any attention to price, because we've mastered it. He uses that word in the video, mastering the horror, so to speak. And you can only master it by ignoring it. You can only extract or eradicate the fear by creating an irrational notion that it won't happen to me, or somehow when it does happen to me, I'm going to have superpowers that you don't have now. Tolerances, beyond what you're capable of enduring, but you'll just pretend you'll have them. Yes. So it's just, like I said, the philosophy is kind of unyielding. It's a crude diagram of our existence. It obeys a kind of crude logic based on crude function. So the universe makes stuff in terms of, it makes interactions. And the interactions can have a durability or a viral nature. Something in nature can do something. And by doing that, it attracts moons and planets, and then it absorbs them. And it's like the blob, to use a horror film metaphor. He even uses that as an argument, theater and how people are attracted to that stuff. But there's so many different kinds of horror. There's the horror where, Return of the Jedi kind of horror, where, bad things are happening, but good is going to win. And then there's horror on some kind of scale where there's just nothing redeeming in it. It's just an exercise in ugly. It's like, and I don't fully understand popular taste. Because, people watch these cop shows and these emergency room shows, and you're just saying, well, that's just so real life. And so it could happen to you. That I don't know how they could possibly walk away feeling good. Gaining any kind of strength from it or mastering anything to realize that, yeah, any day they could be wiped out on the highway, bunch of gasoline poured on them, and have all their skin burned off. Be in the hospital for 2 years on morphine. I mean, knowing that I'm vulnerable to such things just doesn't give you doesn't give you some kind of gooey feeling. I just can't imagine, eating popcorn, contemplating, I'm, any diseases, viruses, all kinds of shit. It's just ticking, tick, 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 tick. It's a little time bomb sitting there just waiting to blow you the fuck up in some kind of foobar manner where you're not dead. You're just unrecognizable. What you were and what you had is nothing to do with what you're going to be. That's horror from my perspective. Living the life of the average Indonesian. Yes, that's horror. Or Mexican, or whatever. Pick any of a number of shitholes on planet Earth. Just start thinking about them eating, the garbage, picking through people's garbage for a meal. Anyway, yeah, I just can't. Oh yes, that just gives. Oh, I just feel so. It's such fun to think about this. No. Crazy bastards. Anyway, so reality is just kind of unyielding, as I was getting to with the universe. There's just this chemical thing, and the chemical thing creates these compounds that act like the blob. They're just this replicating sometimes, and they just consume. They're kind of it's a virus of a kind of negative spin. It's a wobble. It's like one bird in the flock trips, on some turbulence. He hits the other bird, he trips on some turbulence, the other bird trips on some, and it just spreads. And it's a lot of that kind of crap is what the universe is doing. And we're just that. We're just some sort of trip. And, it's just not a good trip if you look at what it's doing. So, I'll post a link to the other guy. I'm really bad at recognizing people's names and all that kind of stuff. A guy who posts videos of bugs. Because they're, he has this idea that somehow you can, as a practical matter, reduce suffering by being aware of all the little crap that's under every footstep you take. And some of it, and this idea that you can sort of spare them suffering is kind of, I'm not, I don't want to, it just doesn't quite work, just because the longer they live, the more likely they are to reproduce. And so, in some sense, you're better off killing everything you see that's alive and has a working penis or vagina, because they might use those damn things and just cause more trouble. And that's the truth. So, I think I could find the video. You think it'd be just sitting here somewhere, where I could just click on it and say, oh, yeah, there it is. And so I'd have the link and all that kind of crap. You'd think. would have figured out how to do this better by now. This whole YouTube experience. Yeah, but it's the life thing, so that's really what I'm failing at. This life is messy. Yeah, very messy. And, you gotta deal with that truth, not just, and dealing with it doesn't mean you make it go away. And I guess that's sort of the argument, that the antakantavads of the world are just giving people mechanisms to not only justify living some sort of guilt-free, responsibility vacant kind of notion of, I didn't cause the problem, I didn't set the fire, therefore I don't have to take any responsibility for its existence kind of crap. Just doing this overt cheerleading, for, oh, it ain't so bad, it ain't so bad, it ain't so bad. No worries. So not only are you not responsible for what horror might exist, you may quite, with a good deal of liberty, just ignore any real, factual responsibility for the existence of it. And that's just wrong. Yes. How much bug suffering would be prevented by? Yeah, that's always a good question. So anyway, I'll link to that. So there's somewhere in the stupid bar. Converting along to the gravel. So he's doing this, and the concept is you take out your lawn and put in gravel, and therefore there's less bugs, and therefore there's less horror. Again, these are not. It's just a fact that you have to account for this stuff, and like I say, it's only through psychological evasions that people don't. They psychologically have evaded the fact that they're eating other mammals, which obviously have the same kind of brain that we have. They obviously have good days and bad days. They feel, they experience, they taste life. And they're quite obviously, if they can't even recognize the comfort and suffering mechanism in their fellow mammals, it's really easy to just presume bugs is little and they have little brains, and therefore the brains doesn't do this. When logically, it can kind of be understood that the this of feeling is a crude function. And it may require a complex brain to make it, but it's still a crude function. It's just a reflex that causes an internal problem. It takes an external problem and makes it really easy to identify. Okay, because in the real world, organisms might have a hard time identifying real problems. I mean, it might seem logical, okay, that nail goes in hand and that's not a good thing. But it's a little bit, everything's a little complicated for an organism that never went to school or something. So it didn't really learn about bleeding and infections and all kinds of stuff like that. So it might not know that this is a bad thing unless it didn't feel good. And so that's why we feel, is because it takes complex things and turns them into simple. That isn't fun. I don't like that. It doesn't feel good. Makes it obvious. And it does that with our hunger, in the sense that it makes us uncomfortable. Gives us a feeling that's not crippling, but just irritating or annoying, until we do something about it. And it just lets us know, and it just gets a little bit louder and louder the more starved we are. To make it more and more urgent that although you want to do some more napping, maybe you have to go out and get some food. Yeah. Yeah, just while I'm making this video, I'm making bread, and I haven't done that in a long time, and so it just had me thinking about just that. Even that is just you get so distant from the reality of just even maintaining our lives, little things that we don't do anymore because the machine does it for us. The vendos, the external world provides, and so we really don't see what goes into anything or what anything's made out of, and that's another problem in discussing anything, because it's just ignorance makes psychological games even easier, because you're sort of playing them without even playing them, because you're not smart enough to recognize what anything really is. So you're just going based on the color. So it's like playing Monopoly, and you just go, I like the color green. Ooh, it's a color. I like that color. And so, the whole concept is lost. The whole, everything that was written into the game is meaningless. Because your ignorance has just turned it into pretty color. And you're still going to play because you're hungry for the color. You need it. So that's the other part of this conversation, is just what are we really doing, in terms of contextualizing our passion, the function. We are blobs. We do this wanting, consuming thing, and it's just our nature. So therefore, we can't say, well, maybe we ought to stop doing that. Well, we certainly can say those words. It's pretty easy to say. Pretty easy to say the future shouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't wish it on a dog. And I certainly wouldn't wish it on a dog to be scavenging garbage piles for breakfast. A really shitty dog. I wouldn't even wish it on a really, really shitty dog. But anyway, that's that's just the reality all over the place. There's plenty of dogs right now eating garbage. But anyway, so it's just all this boost that's, in my opinion, misplaced, and your circumstance is always going to, it's the nature of us as organisms to play the game. So we want to win, we want to play, we want to prove ourselves, we want to master things, master them. There's lots of things we want to master in all kinds of ways, to gratify ego, to gratify some sense that we have to pile up goodies. Whether they're, some of us, like me, we're after badges, we're after little blue gold stars or something, that, claim that provide some sort of evidence of merit, that, yes, this was a useful thing. So I'd almost say that, yes, I'm more interested in my like when you buy a product, you can get the efficiency rating. Yeah, so I want a good green rating, and and other people are just after, I want it to be one heaviest fucking thing ever made, or some other person wants it to be the lightest thing ever made, or whatever. So we're hungry for very different things, in the sense that, but the common thing is hunger. The common thing is that most people do have some sort of completion problem. They're just never really done. And I suppose if you're really going to go look to try to find out who's going to commit suicide tomorrow, find somebody with a clean house, or a clean room, or however they're living. With everything, all the bills paid, and this done, and that, everything cleaned up, because that's sort of the deal. Is that you have to have a clean life. Your projects have to be all completed. And everything has to be, in some way, tidy-upable, for you to feel comfortable in, exiting. And but even even so but it's going to so to die it's going to require that you have a lack of need to complete something, because life is always incomplete. You've never caught the biggest fish you ever caught, so to speak. I mean, you can always imagine more that you can have or that you can acquire, and there always can be missions that are way beyond. People have fantasies, and and they're never attainable. So the thing they're after, they're never going to attain, but they don't give up. They don't let go. And unless things get bad, yes, if they're in the hell of, just brutal suffering, the desire wanes, which helps, and it becomes easier to contemplate letting it go. It's easy to trivialize. It just doesn't. It's just not very important anymore. So the trivial things, when you get your cancer diagnosis, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you'll say, why was I ever worried about that, and why did I worry about this, and this is stupid, and this is, your priorities change. And that should be an indication of psychology at work, that this isn't rigorously philosophically. We're not living by a blueprint written in any kind of with any kind of scientific discipline, because clearly the blueprint changes so easily as soon as the circumstance changes. And that should be an indication to everybody. Me making this argument should indicate to you that maybe that's a problem. That the science of understanding what it is to be human, to get back to the mystics video, that scientific description, that clinical description, may be fundamentally flawed, the one in your head, the diagram you've drawn, if you can change it so easily. I mean, if it was rigorous, to the truth, a little change in circumstance shouldn't make any difference. And so that's why I would argue that what I'm explaining, that life really is quite factually cruel and brutal, even if you're not experiencing it personally. It's way too cruel and brutal to be justified. The pain is not justified by the gain. Your psychology is just that silly. There was a point where he was talking about movies not being able to, give people I fairly approximate the euphoria of accomplishment or victory or whatever it was, and I think they do that. The ecstasy and the agony, the agony and the ecstasy. Movies that show, things go as low as they can go, and then they go, you turn complete defeat into victory kind of thing, and it's all, and there's a good feeling and whatnot. So I don't think his argument that somehow it's been unfairly described, but I mean the point is that it is just fixing a problem. Victory is getting rid of problems. Winning the lottery is a trivial, silly thing, but the truth is it will eliminate a lot of problems. It fixes problems instantly, and that's why you feel good. It's because a lot of problems just went away. It's not that something good happened. It's that you got insurance against bad. And that's a negative thing. I mean, it's positive that you personally got insurance against bad. I'm just saying, but it's a negative positive. It's only a positive because of the existence of the threat. And that's one of those things where you say philosophically that has to be understood, that you do have to account for the fact that something you're saying is a good. If it's made out of the absence of a bad, well, that's not too good. That's not like really good then. Because there's no reason to assume the necessity of the bad existing in the first place. Again, it's back to the argument where you just go back to the valve. You go back to where it starts. And the game starts with your need to have. And that's it. Your need machine. And that's it. And there's no need for the need machine. The need machine doesn't accomplish anything beyond poorly and badly and cruelly satisfying its needs, eating its cheese, and pretending, its little smile didn't come with a frown somewhere else. So, anyway, this is, it's just sort of annoying because these people do a lot of name dropping, philosophical name dropping, when all they're really talking is psychological tripe and just doing a bunch of parade, flag waving kind of crap to cover up the fact that life is stupid and it's not a good idea and it can't accomplish anything except leave a bunch of sticky residue. And by sticky, I'm implying something negative. And that's the problem. Our waste products, our byproducts, the residue we leave will always stink more than any perfume we mixed. You just can't make enough to hide the smell of this pig. So, probably enough of a video. Sorry, see, it just kind of gets a little gloomy because you can't do this reality thing. You can, you just kind of just say, boy, we're sure stuck in a mess, aren't we? We're in the lifeboat. There's no point in being all gloomy about it. Oh, we're in the lifeboat and, that guy's got a transmittable disease and, there's a hole in the boat and there's termites eating the boat and, but yeah, there's no point being a gloomy Gus about it, right? There's no, don't be all so down. Yeah, I'm all for that. But as soon as you start building more lifeboats, it's like the Titanic argument. Yeah, go ahead, let's play some violins and let's, sink with our pants off. But let's not build any more Titanics. That's, applying reason and recognizing there's real things to fear here, and this idea that horror is some sort of, mockable, mistaken identity. Oh, I mistaked all that suffering for something bad. Yeah. There's good reason to be afraid, to be very afraid, and to act accordingly. But there's no reason to harp on it, or to get mired in it, or to allow fear to stop you from making the most of a stupid existence. But making the most of a stupid existence isn't making more stupid existences. It's just that simple. Whew. Don't make babies. And don't assume or presume or defend the perpetuation of a concept replicating DNA that really just doesn't have anything on its side. It really just can't make anything but a fixed flat tire. I mean, it has to flatten it first. And there's just no point in doing that. There's no point in making work. Especially stupid work. And forcing incompetence to fix it so half of the mess still remains. Well, I can just keep, you can find so many metaphors, you just keep analogizing it and come up with different little cartoon characters to play this out with, but I mean, it's just not a... Your stupid pride, there's a point where you just have to recognize that the sport you love is stupid, just like they recognize feeding people to lions was stupid entertainment. Just as we, as a civilization, have recognized dog fighting and cockfighting is a stupid entertainment. This is a stupid entertainment, and it's time to just acknowledge that it's a stupid entertainment. And you're not going to finance it anymore, and you're not going to give it tax breaks, and you're not going to let it. You're not going to do anything. You're going to do everything you can to prevent it. Exactly. You're going to make it. You're just going to acknowledge what it is and do the appropriate thing, which is prevent it. That's rational. And the life game is nothing more than a dog fight or a cockfight. It's just wasted suffering. And acknowledging it is unpleasant, but it's not something to run from so hard that you just kick the truth in the nuts and take no responsibility for. It's almost a catastrophic destruction of reason. I mean, once you make it reasonable to put a smiley face on horror, it's hard to imagine what you can't make reasonable now, which is the part that's the whole problem. You just turn it. You turn the tragedy into a travesty. It's the insult to injury. The injury already exists, and now you're just insulting it, and that sucks. Stop doing that. I'm sort of talking to you. Anyway. Till next time and such. Make the best of it, which means do the best you can, not to be an asshole. Please.